Here on the air. Welcome in on this your very own for you to keep and hold a Reaction Monday. Welcome into the show. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau insurance agents all across the great state of Mississippi. Hey to y'all here in the Bureau today on this Reaction Monday. Did anything happen? Huh? Anything happen this weekend? What did happen this week? Anything y'all want to talk about? Is there anything you would like to react to that happened over the weekend? Like, I don't know, maybe LSU's pretty good. I mean, look, maybe they are. Maybe they're pretty good. I mean, look, we kind of knew that LSU was pretty good before the weekend, right? I think the problem is we thought State was better before the. Let's put it this way: like, you didn't think the same thing about State at 6 p.m. as you did at 6 a.m., right? On Saturday. So congrats to our LSU listeners, Tyga and LS Who and everybody else who texts the show and calls from time to time. That's a good football team. That was a dominant win. They took State out behind the woodshed and just wore them out. So get them on in here. Text me, call me, or comment on the live stream. If you're on the live stream, hey to you on Facebook and on YouTube, and some that are on Twitter as well. Good to see y'all today here on the live stream. And you can type a comment, post it right there on the Murray West live thread, and we'll bring it in here, and we can be a part of the show that way. Murray West, go to murraywest.com. Stuff like this, embroidery, contract embroidery, company right here in Mississippi since 1996. They do the best work of anybody around. And if you need your logo on anything, custom apparel as well, check them out. And you can find all the information right there at murraywest.com. And so feel free to comment. Sven is in on the live stream, so we're going to get to that. Your text coming up on the Country Pleasing text line. You know the number? Yes, 885-3776, a 601 number. 885-3776. Another way to remember the text line is 885-ESPN. Got it? 885-ESPN. Call me on the Davini phone, 995-1059. That's a 601 number, 995-1059. See, and I see a lot of this too. Like, this is Ricky. He's on the Murray West live thread over here on Facebook, and he says, Hail State from Lawrenceville, Georgia, tough weekend. See, we still get that. Hail State, big old caps right there. But it was a tough weekend, and that's actually a light way to put it. Okay, so I'm sure that there has been plenty of breakdown and talk, and you with your friends and fellow fans and those kinds of things. Today on a Reaction Monday, any direction you want to go, it's cool with me. I'll look at your comments and questions and opinions and otherwise here, and we'll get to them however you get on in here. But I hope to hear from you today. It always makes it a lot more fun on Mondays to hear from you. And a lot of that coming up. What going forward? You know, the thing about it is, too, I had someone like this morning, I posted sort of the long, it's a podcast, basically. It's like a long podcast episode, but there's a video element, too. So it goes up on the YouTube channel, but it went out on the podcast channel, which is just the Matt Wyatt Show. Subscribe there if you haven't already. Get this show and others. And it's just a recap. And so it went out this morning here on Monday morning because you played on Saturday. I try not to do anything on Sunday. That's for me, personally, take the Lord's Day off and don't do anything on Sunday. And then post some stuff this morning. And somebody reacted this morning and said, I'm sick of it. No thanks. I'm moving on. And I can absolutely see that too if you're a State fan. Because I said right at the end of the game, I'm not even sure. It was so bad, especially offensively. It was really bad as a team, but especially offensively, it was so bad that I'm not sure you can get anything out of watching that film, even if you're that team. Now, that might have been one of those little disgusted reactions at the end of the game, because here I am on Monday thinking, no, I mean, there's probably some stuff you could point out. But there's a part of me that believes that still may hold true. That's how bad it was. Like the game film for that, especially for State's offense in that game, belongs in the garbage because that's what it is. And that's kind of what it was. And to watch it again, it's almost like you're better off not watching it again. Immediately move on to the next one and just start getting ready for South Carolina. Like, figure out a way to have something, use the time that you would the minutes, the hours you would normally spend on the film, just spend that on getting something ready for next week. It seemed like it'd be a better use of the time. But, so, if you are one of those who went, hey, I don't want to react or recap anything, I kind of understand it. Now, we're going to do it. We're going to react and we're going to recap. But if that's not you, I kind of understand it. I'll put it that way. All right? All right. First, I would like to wish a happy Monday to the man, the myth, the legend. His name is Beaver. Beaver! I know we have a phone call, and we'll come straight to it real quick. I just want to say hey to you. How you doing, Beaver?
I'm good, Matt Wyatt.
You had to scramble a little bit. Studio was in shambles, but you put it back together, right?
I think we did so far.
So far? You know why I said it that way? Just not long ago, Annabeth and I watched the replay or the that show, The Office, when, remember, Michael and what was from Nashua?
Holly?
Holly. Michael and Holly left the office late one night, and they accidentally left the front door unlocked, and somebody came in and robbed the office, and everything's gone, and they stole Oscar's laptop. We just watched that. It kind of felt like it's maybe what Beaver. No, we didn't get robbed, y'all. So I'm saying nobody left the door open. We didn't get robbed, but it's like Beaver had to put everything back together again. That's what I thought about. All right, we'll start it off this way. We're going to go phone, text, live thread, all of that coming up now, sort of machine gun style. We'll go fast because everybody's getting in hot and heavy. So here we go. We're going to start it off with Ray on the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer. Thanks for calling, Ray. What's up? Ray, you got it. How are you? I don't hear Ray.
Well, I was hoping after watching the first two games. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. I think we've got a long delay going here, but you got it, Ray. Jump right on in there. All right, we'll try again another time. Over to the text line, the country pleasing text line. Country pleasing sausage. Try us again, Ray. We'll see if we can iron out the phone line. I may have been standing on the cord here. 995-1059. So J-Rock texted the show. He's the first text I got on the country pleasing text line. He said, hey, Matt, got a couple of observations. I think it's going to be hard for Mississippi State to get bowl eligible, he says. He says, and I also think LSU and Ole Miss are the two best teams in the West, and it's no coincidence that they have the best two quarterbacks in the conference. I'll probably catch some flack, but it's just my opinion. Have a great day. That's from J-Rock. All right. So, yeah, I mean, unless, based on what we've seen so far, unless State's offense finds something quickly, leaps and bounds, and goes out this week and clearly has figured out an identity, something you can do and execute and just ride with it and wear somebody down and, figure out a way to get some plays off of it. Unless they have figured that out, unless they figure it out quickly, it's going to get out. It can get out of hand quick. I mean, you got an SEC schedule coming up. You're like, we got home games. Yeah, it's Alabama, right? In a couple of weeks, Road game, yeah, it's South Carolina. They gave Georgia fits. And South Carolina's defense statistically isn't that great, but State's offense statistically is worse. So, I mean, they got to figure it out quick. So the bowl thing. And on the quarterback deal, man, Jaden Daniels looked so good, and State was not able to force him into any mistakes and losing the line of scrimmage defensively, and he can move around. He didn't even have a whole lot of help, but he got a lot of help from his offensive line. But he was so accurate with the ball. Like, he just really threw the ball accurately, pinpoint on everything, down the field, underneath, velocity on underneath with accuracy where you catch and run after the catch and made it look good, taking advantage of soft corners. And then when you got up top, he made some throws. He had maybe 4 times in the game where he threw while he was getting hit. He gets popped, and it was accurate too. And just a few incompletions, 88%. I think they said that's the best in the conference ever with somebody more than 30 attempts or something like that. I mean, he chewed us up and spit us out. So I'd agree with you there. And I will say this, I've not gotten to see a ton of the Ole Miss games, snaps here and there in the Tulane game, a little bit the other night, but not much. But even going back to last year, y'all could probably attest to this, but coming out of the Egg Bowl, people were on his case, and, and Ole Miss fans, they don't like their quarterback. But I've always said, man, I was impressed with him, especially when I saw him in person last year in the Egg. He runs well. He's a physical guy, doesn't mind, the contact, throws it accurately, tough. I seem to be getting better. He just kind of had everything you'd want to have, and it's just a matter of kind of getting it coached up to use all that. And then here lately, he's been using his legs and running more, and that's really a threat for them. So, yeah. And here's the thing, J-Rock. A lot of what you're saying is in reference to Alabama looking so bad, and it's just hard to wrap your head around it, that they would look that bad against the South Florida, and they didn't play Milroe this week and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing about it. Athletically, neither of those guys, and I mean it now, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but even Jaden Daniels nor Dart at Ole Miss, neither of them are quite the athlete that Jalen Milroe is at Alabama. In the weight room, he's stronger. On a dead run, he'll run off and leave both of them. Well, I shouldn't say that about Daniels, but Milroe is faster than Jaden Daniels. As fast as Jaden Daniels is, Milroe is faster. Okay? Arm strength, like, if you think that matters, I don't really, but he's got that advantage too. It's just, it shows you that processing and decision-making is the number one thing at quarterback, more so than athleticism. And then number 2, throwing a ball accurately over and over and over again once you do process things quickly and accurately. And that's why some guys might be ahead of an athlete like Milroe. All right, let's try the phone line again, see if we got a better connection here from Stoney on the Divinity Equipment phone line. Stoney, thanks for calling. What's up?
Matt, within, several years, LSU has been on, the third or fourth opponent. And I've always said I can judge how State's year will be, how they play LSU. But usually, however they do play, the State's season to go as accordingly. But once again, LSU thumped them, and I don't see another SEC win in State's future. Unless you do, please tell me where it's at.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll say this, Stoney, this is a fact. Any other offensive performances like you saw the one on Saturday, you will lose those games. That's where they are. Like, and I know that's an if. That's just the only way I know how to look at it. If they replicate on offense what they did against LSU, against anybody else on their schedule, they're losing that game. And that shows you the ground they've got to make up and having some stuff that they can go out and execute. And Stoney, you play, you know this. They ran 50 plays against LSU, and LSU athletically was much better than State. LSU's defensive front was better than the offensive line, all this stuff. But if you run 50 plays, and that's all they ran, a college offense in the SEC, if you've got your act together, you can get everybody in the right position on 50 plays. Now, whether or not if I'm the tight end, that linebacker may knock me on my butt. Well, that's an athletic thing, but I'm still blocking the right guy. You see what I mean?
Right.
And the issue is, you ran 50 plays the other day, and even on a bunch of those, you had people in the wrong place. You had quarterbacks and receivers that didn't know where they were going. You had offensive linemen going the wrong direction on certain plays. You have sometimes in pass pro guards that they don't know if they're checking to their right for help or if they're checking to their left for help. And that's just in 50 plays. You got to be able to execute 50 to 60 plays without a whole lot of mental errors just to know if we're any good or not, or can be any good or not. Does that make any sense?
Man, I totally agree. I'm going to go ahead and just say it. And I don't feel right about the head coach. It don't seem to be a fit at Mississippi State. It seems real weird to me. By the way, back in even the 90s when we run the basic of the most basic offenses, we averaged somewhere between 70 and 82 plays a game. Just to put things in perspective, man. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I get it. For sure.
All I can say right now is Mississippi State don't want no part of Ole Miss, and I, don't want to just throw in the towel, but Apollo Creed, Rocky did throw the towel for Apollo Creed, and look what happened to Apollo, and I'm afraid what's going to happen to State. But anyway, man, I'm going to let somebody else get on here. It was good talking to you. Take care of yourself.
All right, appreciate it, Stoney. Good to hear your voice. He doesn't have a lot of confidence. He ain't feeling too good about it right now. Jason in Flagstaff, quoting the movie Waterboy, he said, "Oh, no, we suck again." I forgot about that, Jason. I need to go back and watch that movie. Let me go quick here. Country Pleasing text line. State Grad 98 says, "Congrats to the Bulldogs on opening SEC play with a victory over the hated Tigers. 1-0 feels good." What are you talking about? Are you living in an alternate world there, State Grad? Steven text. This is kind of long. Let me see what he says here. Matt, I'm a huge supporter and will be in Columbia Saturday. I was totally embarrassed by the performance Saturday. Our offense didn't execute a play until the last drive of the first half. Our defense made LSU's quarterback look like a Heisman candidate. They made Neighbors look like Jerry Rice. He said, "Is this fixable? Is Coach Arnett kind of like Matt Luke for Ole Miss?" I'm not sure if anyone knows for sure right now, including Coach Arnett, he says. "It may be too early to tell, but I really don't want to see what took place Saturday for a couple of years. We've not been ready to execute anything on both sides of the ball this year." Yeah, Stephen, and in my experience too, Stephen, like most of the time coaches would prefer criticism be directed at them and not players. Most of the time they prefer it. I do think over the next year or two, that's sort of going to shift and change a little bit just because players are now making so much money in college football to play. They call it NIL, but we know that it's being paid to play and paid to stay and paid to transfer and all this kind of stuff. And so that's going to shift it where what used to be, hey, we're going to kind of lay off these college kids, there'll be less of that because they're making money. And that's just one of the byproducts of the whole thing. But you're right, okay, they have a long way to go as a team. You look at defensively, they created all those turnovers against Arizona, but also let them back in the game. The offense helped. This week, it's not that you just had a bad day offensively. It was sort of compounded things for the defense, and they had a bad day too. I mean, look, y'all, I don't know how else we can say it. There are so many different ways to say the same thing. We all kind of agree. But, I mean, the final score of the ball game was 41-14. Do you not agree that, if you watch the game, that score, 41-14, makes it appear that the game was more competitive than it actually was? I'm telling you, the game was not competitive. It just wasn't even competitive. And it never was. And what was sort of embarrassing, and you felt so bad about it, is that the fans generally did a heck of a job getting there. You had a great crowd for an 11 a.m. game. You know, and I know people go, well, it was LSU, you should fill it up. Well, maybe so, but, 11 a.m. game, week 3 of the season. It was a really good crowd. And it was from the word go, it was like all the buildup and the hype and the noise was just an exercise. It was never a contest. At the end of the third quarter, it was 34-7. This is 3 quarters now. And they had 440 yards of offense. And State had 123. State had 123 yards of offense in the first 3 quarters. They were 0 for 9 on third down at the end of the third quarter. So, like you said, there's so many different ways to say that it was bad, but what do you point to and what do they do? Now, I've got a lot of your comments on Reaction Monday here coming up. From Don and Nick and Denzel and Tyler, Ghost Rider, Johnny, Real C, everybody. I'm coming to all of that. And I'm about to, Steve and Will and everybody on the Murray West Live thread, coming to that too. And I got some thoughts on kind of what they've got to do going forward. I'm Matt, in the Bureau, just getting started with you on this Monday. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free.
Yeah!
For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transparent fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no...
All right, back with you on this Reaction Monday in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Let's go back over to Ray. We got him back on the Divinity Equipment phone line. We had a misconnect earlier. Let's try it again here. Ray, thanks for calling. What's up?
Thanks for taking my call. I can just say as a long-term state fan, watching the first two games, I was really worried with Southeast Louisiana when it took us 3 quarters to get that going in the right direction. Arizona, just the whole offensive mess that was Arizona, but also on the defensive side, that game didn't look good to me either. I was hoping we would get some things straightened out. Instead, it looks like we're going in the wrong direction. And I think about these coaches. It was so bad that I don't think you lose anything if you replaced them with somebody else tomorrow, if there was anyone else available. I don't know how it gets any worse from a coaching standpoint. In my view, we don't have stars. We don't have a ton of NFL people necessarily on our roster, but we have good players, good SEC players. And to go from where we were last year with new coaching to where there's not one phase of the game that looks like they're even well coached. I mean, we had so many times Will Rogers, he did overthrow some people, but he'd be throwing to the sideline. The guy ran the wrong route, and he's looking at the guy going like, why? Raising his hands like we don't even have the receivers in the right position. So to me, it's just coaching all the way around. And I knew maybe for continuity purposes, going with Coach Arnett may have been a reasonable decision. But when we hired an OC from App State, I'm thinking like, is that the best we can do? Is that the highest goals we had when it came to putting an offense together? So I'll let you go, but anyway, I'm just super disappointed, given where we have come in the last few years.
Yeah,
and with the players, with a lot of returning players, it seems to me this is completely a coaching misstep. And our football team has now become what our baseball team is, and that's not good. So thank you,
Ray. Appreciate the call very much. On the Murray West live thread, go to murraywest.com. If you need a custom apparel of any kind, contract embroidery company right here in Mississippi and New Albany, go to murraywest.com. That's MURRY west.com. Kind of like the shirt I'm wearing, interlocking MSU embroidered right here. The right kind that's not going to fold up or peel off, good stuff. That's where you need to start. Trust me, whether it's for your brand, your company, whatever. Sissy commented on Facebook and said, I refuse to give up on my dogs. They will turn this around. Mr. Harmon said on the YouTube live stream, I had a feeling it was going to be bad, so playing golf was a better choice. Mark on the Murray West live thread says, for the head coach to decide to change the entire offense knowing that his team knew the air raid was just plain stupid, he says. And then Jimmy commented on the YouTube Murray West live thread, says, here's all I'll say. We had 3 coaches not retained that became offensive coordinators at other colleges. Some more coming up from Will and others. Roshana said, Matt, she's on Facebook, says, is there a quarterback's coach? And there is. That's Kevin Barbet. Barbet coaches and works with those quarterbacks and then, of course, coordinates the offense. And most schools do this too, Roshana, but you'll have like a GA, a grad assistant that also works with the coordinator, quarterback's coach. So let's say if a certain part of practice during individual, Barbay wants to break away and go to receivers or go to something, he'll do that, and then the GA will take over that particular drill, if that makes sense. But thanks for asking. Lots of texts, as you can imagine, to get to, and we're going to do that coming up. And Nick, I'll start with you in just a second. Well, let's do that now. Nick comments here on the Country Pleasing text line. Barbay is doing disservice to Rodgers. He says, we were told all offseason that he would tailor the offense around the abilities of our players, and it appears that isn't happening with Will. If this is what he wants to do, then it's time for Mike to get a shot, or State is staring 4 and 8 in the face. Nick, I'll say this. I've got some agreement with you on a couple of areas there, and understand a player like Will Rogers would never agree to this and would never say this about himself or whatever. He would probably adamantly disagree with me on this, but I'm in a different position. I'm on the outside looking in, like you are. What this transition has done has made it look like the situation is a little bit unfair to Will. Now, I'm not saying that any coach owes a player anything. The coach's job is to really at all costs figure out a way to win. And whatever that takes, if it hurts some feelings, you just have to do it. That's what you're paid to do as a coach. And that's a fact, and that won't ever change. And that's the same in any situation. But it has the appearance of this. To take a player who's in that sort of system, that air raid system, for 3 years, he's in his, he's a fourth-year senior, with lots of seniors around him who also played in that system, and to transition it into what we are seeing, which is a primarily pro-style run offense with transfer tight ends to make it over in 1 year and one off season, to primarily run the ball. Okay, and we'll get to that in a bit. And like 17 pass attempts in week 2. To in week 3 versus a conference opponent to have self-evaluated and make the decision, we're going to take the ball when we win the coin toss. That showed me that everybody had confidence in their offense, and then we see they shouldn't have had confidence in their offense. That all of this is whipped up into a situation where for Will, this ain't working. It's a little bit of, you use the word disservice. I don't know that it's fair to him. And it's really obvious at this point because you got to go play games. Forget install, forget develop. You got to go try to win games now. The Lord may come back tomorrow and we don't play next week against Alabama. You got to win this week. And so it's obvious that to move the ball and to do it and have some stuff you can run consistently, you've got to go through Woody Marks. The offense must go through number 7 Woody Marks and number 5 Tulu Griffin. And you may have to try some different things. But what you've done in 3 games offensively and the product you've put out there is so far removed from what the air raid was with Will that it's like, what are you asking him to do? All right, over to the phone line, Davini Equipment phone. Chris from Macon. What's up, Chris?
Well, I called to eat my crow first thing. I was wrong. They got manhandled. But I refuse to do like all these other people and put it on Will Rogers. Because, Matt, how many completions would you have had behind that offensive line Saturday?
Oh, well, that's not it.
I wasn't even watching the game. I was listening to it on the radio, and I could tell just through the radio that line was all full.
They were whipped as Chris, let me jump in. They were whipped as a football team. The difference is somebody like me throws 2 interceptions in the game. Will didn't turn it over.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the difference. Will hadn't turned one over yet. Will missed throws. He played poorly too, Chris. He had some throws he missed. He had a touchdown to Xavion. You got to drop it in a bucket. It had to be perfect, but if he does, it's a touchdown. It's about a yard overthrown. He had a touchdown pass was dropped. He and receivers were not on the same page, and a quarterback's always going to tell you that's my responsibility. So it ain't. I'm not sitting here saying Will played spotlessly. He didn't. They're all at fault. The whole operation was not ready to go out there and play this game against LSU. They didn't have one slight idea what they were going to do to be able to be successful. I mean, from the first series on. And that what bothers me about it, Chris, is I look at it and go, self-scouting is so important, right? It is so important. Chris, did you tell me one time that you did or you still do drive a truck?
I do drive a truck.
Okay, so if you're out there, all right, you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's just you and that truck, okay, and all of a sudden you have an issue with a tire, okay, and you got ever how many wheels on that truck. Well, if you don't look at the situation for what it is and self-diagnose that thing from the get-go, which tire, which wheel, what the problem is, and you just keep trying to drive it down the road, you're staring disaster in the face. It's up to you
to... You're compounding the problem.
You're compounding it, and something else is going to tear up. You got to self-evaluate correctly.
The other thing I want to say is our coaches need to get in a room and just lock themselves in a room and talk awful to each other. For whoever thought that Malik Neighbors shouldn't have been covered up by at least two people.
Well, I mean,
they need their brain checked, because that man's killed us. I mean, he's had like 500 yards of offense in 2 games against us. That's just ridiculous. I mean, we recruited him for a reason. I mean, we had him in the bag. Can you imagine what this state team would have been last year or this year with that man here?
Well,
and I mean, that's just the point. Like, you can't. He's one of the best receivers I've ever seen at LSU or the way he's been playing any dadgum program, because he's the only thing they got. The only thing. So it is what it is. That was the worst. I mean, I've seen Sylvester Croon coach better games than that, and that was awful.
It was rough.
That's all I got to say.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the call.
Have a good day.
You too, man. Have a good day. Appreciate the call. You did have him committed, but we have to raise some more money in today's game. Stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, The only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh.
Hamburger helper lasagna.
For your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto. But not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger helper lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger helper. Lasagna.
Helper, hamburger helper.
Make a great meal, oh.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau. Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. Let's see. Joseph on Facebook on the Murray West live thread says, understandable that it's not Will's fault 100%, but man, you just can't drop down to the ground when you're feeling pressured. I mean, he says he's not even trying to break loose and create something. He has been doing this for years. With Will, I hadn't had many times where I watched and I felt like, he's dropping to the ground. I mean, and a lot of times it's protecting the football, when you're back there. But too, there does come a certain element there where you got to, even with things breaking down or about to get hit, we still got to step into it and drive it in there accurately. And that's easier to do when you're up. It's easier to do when you got loads of talent all around you. A guy like Jaden Daniels has a load of talent all around him for sure. All right, let's go. We got a bunch of texts here. Let's see what we've got on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. I'm eating some jalapeno and cheddar, my favorite. Right now, I eat a lot of that, as you can tell. Not only by what I say, but just take a look. Tyler, texts the show, said, not sure the end game for MSU coaches, what they're playing with Wright. He said, seems that they limited his play to maybe head off controversy, but then puts him in at the end to throw the only touchdown pass of the day. 1-for-1 with a TD. The calls for Will to sit can't seem to get louder. But Tyler, you got to understand, I mean, the reality of that game, if you watched it, I mean, it was 34-7 at the end of the third quarter, and State had 123 yards of offense in the first three quarters, and LSU put it on ice and started sitting everybody. And it wasn't until they went with their backup defense and State started moving the ball on offense. I think the actual numbers, you finished – State finished with 201 yards of offense. That's like the lowest output since, I think, 2007. 201 yards of offense. 78 of that came in the fourth quarter when they put all the backups in. So, and people go, well, he threw a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, he did. Right? I mean, you're playing against their freshmen. Ghost Rider texted the show earlier and said MSU was in that game right up to the national anthem. Johnny from Tisdale texts the show, Matt, are games like that as hard to call as they are to watch? Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, as difficult as it can be. It's not like I'm nailing up shingles. Right? I mean, the difficult part is really staying mentally engaged and looking at it. But I mean, I enjoy that. I generally can look at each play in a vacuum and just get into that. So I don't mind it too bad. But it's not as fun per se to call a game like that versus one that's competitive. Real C texts the show and says, I look forward to cool fall Saturday mornings for college football. I'm thinking I'll be taking my frustration out on the crappie population instead. I know you will, and good luck with all that. Earl in Madison said, contrary to the other texter, he said, and this is coming from an Ole Miss guy, I don't think we are at the top of the West, and that's also based on what I've seen so far. Too soft in the lines. Yeah, they've got to pick it up on line of scrimmage on both sides. I agree with you, Earl. Just what little bit I've seen, and you look at their opponents so far this year. They haven't played one yet who really, challenged them on the line of scrimmage. State was in the same boat. State had played Southeast Louisiana, a good competitive FCS, and then played Arizona, who's a much improved Pac-12 team. And then the difference in the line of scrimmage on those two versus LSU is a big difference. And Ole Miss is going to run into the same thing. You run out there against teams like Alabama and others, and I know they're not clicking on all cylinders either, but that's what I think. I think they got a ways to go too, just kind of getting tougher in the line of scrimmage. The thing, though, Earl, is, especially offensively, they can kind of learn on the run a little bit because they have such good skill people and a good plan. They've played in the system and they're moving the ball. And maybe they can overcome some of that. Double hot coffee Norman today. Not just coffee Norman. Double hot coffee Norman on the Country Pleasing text line says, Matt, I know it's not just Will Rogers, but with all the offensive issues, he said, wouldn't you have to evaluate who is most potential explosive play making, who's the most potential explosive play-making quarterback, he says. A running quarterback seems to give you a shot with all the breakdowns. I know it is difficult to go there, but question. All right, Norman, here's my thing. I'll answer it this way, Norman. If before the season you had looked at me and you said, hey, Matt, they're not going to be any sort of air raid, like at all, I would have gone, wait a minute, like, what are you saying? You're saying none at all? Like no even like twinge of what they were doing in the past game in these if you said, Matt, listen to me, they're not going to throw it much. Okay. And when they do, it's really pro style. It ain't air raid stuff at all. We're going to see of the pass attempts you're going to see in the first game. You're going to see a lot of 2- and 3-man routes. We're not seeing 4 and 5s, not a lot anyway. It ain't even going to be close to the air raid, Matt. And I would have said, okay, so are they running zone read stuff with the quarterback, like zone run game on some run plays where the quarterback can option to keep it? And you'd go, yeah. I would have said to you preseason, well, if that's what they're going to do, then Will needs to go. Find some place to go where he can throw the ball. And they just need to find a fast guy and play him. Or I might have even said this, Norman. I might have said, well, it sounds to me like they're just trying to go ahead and totally erase everything and start over from scratch and maybe build it for the future down the road. Instead of you're going to leverage all these seniors you got this year, maybe just build something for down the road. Maybe they're going to play the freshman, right? And go ahead and start getting him ready. That's the conversation you and I would have had in the preseason if that's what came out. CB on the Davini Equipment phone line. Thanks for calling, CB. What's up? Are you there? CB. Go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, got you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, a few things. How many wins did you particularly have for state before the season began? And I was at the game Saturday, and a few observations I see is, first off, foremost, Arnett's playing with the talent he has at this present time. I think O-line and D-line is thin, although state offensive line are seniors and graduate seniors, but it really don't matter what year they are. If the defensive line is better than your offensive line, what's going to happen is what happens Saturday.
They got swarmed.
Right
they
now,
really did.
I don't think state has the talent LSU has, and that's not Arnett's fault. Now, in 3 years, that might be the case. And also, if you're going out to get if you're hiring an offensive coordinator for your future, if you were the head coach this year for your future, not immediately, would you hire whatever coordinator you hire? But that's not the quarterback for the system currently right now. So you have to fight through. And what I was looking at 6 or 7 wins for state this year, and I think that's still doable. But it's going to be a fight in every other game there is in the SEC games, and I understand it was ugly, but it was pretty much what, if every reasonable person said 6 or 7 wins, that's kind of, you had that most likely as a loss anyway.
Yeah, that's
right or wrong.
No, that's right. Yes, and you know, what you're touching on is reality, CB, and yes, reality is that LSU team is better than they were last year, and they won the West last year. And I think we lost CB. He's right about that. This state team is not as good as they were last year, and this transition and everything is part of that. In the recap, last year's game was 31-16 in Baton Rouge. This year's game is 41-14 in Starkville. But they're two entirely different games. But you actually didn't throw for a ton more yards against LSU last year in Baton Rouge than you did this year in Starkville, all total. So, CB, to your point, yeah, no question. I mean, my thing is, nobody's disagreeing that, LSU's got a much better collection of athletes. We said on Friday on this show, and it was totally unanimous, I know that's an oxymoron there. It was unanimous across the board in answering in the affirmative. Who's got more NIL invested in their roster, LSU or state? It's LSU. We know it. Everybody knows it. What we can't figure out is the pattern of offense, the approach on offense we are seeing in the first 3 games with Will Rogers. We can't wrap our head around it. Because, ultimately, you are trying to win the games, and they feel like Will Rogers gives them the best chance to do that. And I would agree. But does the approach give Will the best chance? I think it's a fair question. Hour 1 in the books, hour 2 coming up. Stick around.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is life. Everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember. In pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
See, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it. Come and get
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes. Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the raisin bran. Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies. And there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big red one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat for the adult in you, great taste for the kid in you. So they're delicious and nutritious.
The whole grain wheat really packs a crunch, but the delicious taste gives it just the right punch.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Ways you can get involved. Visit us at www.msul.org or call us at 601-987-6783. Again, that's www.msul.org or 601.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right. And they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that. But irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity.
At the Zone 105.9 and worldwide.
Now, here we go.
At the Zone 105.9.com.
Hey! Here we go. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance across the great state of Mississippi. How about Will over here on the Murray West live thread? Congrats to Portland State. Y'all didn't think you'd hear that start hour number 2, did you? Congrats to Portland State. They got blown out by Oregon 81-7 in week 1. And they picked up their first win of the season. They beat North American 91-0 this weekend. So you talk about you talk about a swift turnaround for them. Here on the Country Pleasing text line, we do have some level-headed people on the Country Pleasing text line. And I think I probably need to hear this too. Be reminded of this too. Unnamed texter said, you said it. If they turn in another performance like that, probably going to lose. It says, we're better than that. Than what we put on the field Saturday. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet. On the other side, LSU will have a hard time replicating that as well. 88% completion rate, crazy numbers. They had a great day. We had a bad day. It happens. End of text. Mike in Batesville texts the show. What's up, Mike? He said the 1997 team went 7-4, went to Georgia, got destroyed 47-0. 1998, pretty good team. That's right. Won the Western Division that year. Went to LSU and got whipped 41-6. He said all the Chicken Littles need to calm down. There you go. Let's see. Jeremy texted the show and said, Matt, I remember during the preseason that Coach Arnett talked about the team doing so well they cut a couple of practices short. Maybe that wasn't a good move for the new coaching staff. Well, and Jeremy, I don't know about that. I mean, coaches, they've been around a long time, you know. These last 3 years, that 9-win team last year, we forget. I mean, Coach Arnett's coordinating the defense. He knows what he's looking at, you know, and Coach Arnett, to a fault, is just openly honest in these comments. He doesn't hesitate to just say exactly how he feels and thinks. And a lot of coaches are guarded because people will, if you lose a game, people will take what you say and use it against you. He didn't seem to care about that. He just lets it rip. Unnamed texter said, Matt, you are the new offensive coordinator at State. What would you do to salvage the Titanic, this Titanic? I mean, it's not the Titanic, okay? That's not where we are. You know, I mean, like, what would you do? It's really not my place to sit here and say, well, I would do this, because then the connotation is, well, if they don't do that, then I disagree with it. You know, I mean, we should probably always preface stuff like that with, you know, I know a little bit of X's and O's. Well, the current coaches have forgotten more X's and O's stuff than I probably know, you know, and they know what they're doing and they know how to approach things. And sure, they make mistakes. They're humans, and also you're dealing with human performance, not robots. And sometimes you can make all the right decisions, and one little thing breaks down and it causes a domino effect, and it looks really bad, you know. And you learn those things the hard way. You know, you learn how to kind of coach against your mistakes. But I know one thing. I'm really confident that your two best weapons on offense right now, your most consistent ones, your best threats are Woody Marks and Tulu Griffin. You know, they're way down the road on the offensive scheme change and, you know, incorporating tight ends and sort of a different philosophy. There's no such thing as, you know, sidestepping that or reversing that. That's where it's going. That's what it's going to be, period, end of story. There's no point in discussing, you know, scheme stuff. It's really just within that. And I look at it and go, the thing that any offense has to do is you do have to learn, okay, who are we? What do we do well? What can we consistently do well and replicate, and then just go and replicate that and depend on our ability. And if they whip us from an ability standpoint, at least I was in the right place. What you can't do is go out and continue, trying to do things that you got guys going the wrong direction and you're not on the same page and all that kind of stuff. So mental errors, right? Or assignment errors. If you're having a rash of those, you're actually a lot better off with a small package of things that you know how to do, and you're not going to get assignment errors and just roll with that and live with the consequences, than you are trying to do a lot of things that produce a lot of assignment errors. And coaches are paid to figure out where's that sweet spot right here. Because I expect these guys to study and know what to do, but there comes a certain point where we got to realize they don't know how to do this. They can't do it. And you eliminate that from what you're trying to do. And I know I'm beating around the bush right there, but I came away the other day, that's a really good team, a really high upper echelon team in college football. Last year's West champion. This year they're a little bit better team even, I think. State, you could see they're kind of in a position against those types of defense where that offense must, if that's what you're going to do, that offense must go through Woody Marks. It must. And Tulu. That's who it's got to go through. And it looks pretty clear to me. What do you think? See, I thought we were going to come in here this hour and talk about the Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys?
Dak and the Cowboys, they look good, huh? Well, so they played two teams from New York, and they beat them combined 70-10. They shut out the Giants last week. The Giants went and had that massive comeback yesterday in Arizona. I don't know if you saw that or not. I really enjoy watching the NFL football on Sundays. You get to watch the Saints tonight. Hey, Beaver, real quick, where's my man Beaver at? Will you go watch the Saints play with Saints Bro on a Monday night, or is that just a weekend thing?
No Mondays.
Okay.
During the week, it's gonna be pretty difficult to get me out of the house once I'm home.
Yeah, I got you. Makes sense. After a work day. Yeah. I got you. Well, I'll be watching. All right. Here's a text, and we'll hit the phone line. Possum Neck Joe. He's on the all-name team, by the way. Possum Neck Joe says, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing system. He says football is the system. It's blocking, tackling, running the ball, throwing the ball, and catching the ball. The system didn't cause Will Rogers to throw it in the ground or defensive backs get smoked by receivers. Yeah. Also, Sven on the Murray West live thread, he commented and said, what I don't get, that Coach Brock left this poor safety alone with Neighbors the entire game. Talking about Hunter, Travis Hunter? No, not Travis Hunter. No, his first name's not Travis. Hunter Washington, 21, Hunter Washington, the Florida State transfer. I know once, but I think twice, right? He was in the matchup one-on-one with Neighbors and got beaten. See, Washington had been banged up a little bit. So that's one where, like, LSU, they dialed it up, and they're like, we're gonna get him matched up on any safety, and when we do, we're taking it. And boy, did they ever take it. Jimmy commented to him and said, Sven, the adjustment is get pressure. And, Jimmy, you're right. He says they're expecting pressure in those cases where the safety is man up. We just couldn't get pressure on the QB. And some of that is true because, you'd love to get pressure with, your front. And in some cases, in a nickel package, that's only three guys who are front guys, right? Like 2 D tackles and an end, like Pickering at nose, Crumity on one side, Russell on the other, and whoever's subbing in. You'd love to get pressure with those, and they're just blocking with 5. But you consistently can't. You got a mobile quarterback, want to contain a little better also, so you get more people involved. A linebacker. sometimes 2 linebackers. Now we're bringing 5 and trying to get pressure, right? Well, that takes people out of your coverage and forces people that are in a little bit more of a matching up man-to-man down the field some. And so if those 4 or 5 aren't getting pressure, now they're out of the coverage, they blocked them up, that's the checkers game, and here we go throwing it up to the one-on-one matchup, and the quarterback was really accurate with the ball. And that's why, they were 9 of 16 on third down in the game. They had 8, so half of their third down opportunities were in the medium range. Third down and 5, 6, 7, or 8 yards. Okay? And several times in there, in those medium down and distance third downs, they were converting them, and you're going, they complete it to an underneath route, either to a back or a crossing route, and there's nobody in underneath coverage. And I was looking at it during the game going, it's frustrating because they need 8 yards or 7 yards for a first down, and your zone coverage has actually dropped beyond where the marker is and has opened up that underneath. So if you get the completion, then he's at the first down stick or just past it. Well, part of the reason for that is you were having to use linebackers to try to affect the quarterback. You could not get a 3-man, 4-man rush. It took more than that, and by using more, takes them out of your underneath coverage, and there's less bodies out there, and you're dropping a little bit more than you should just because defensively you don't want to give up home run plays. You're trying to stop them from making 3rd and 7. You don't want to give up 37. See what I mean? And so it's these numbers games that, to Jimmy's point, so much of it is started with pressure. Coverage goes as pressure goes so often. And the inverse was true for State. If you watch that, they didn't necessarily have to get a lot of people involved in all kinds of blitz and stuff to affect the pocket, close the pocket, collapse it, and affect the quarterback. And you still got all those bodies running around in coverage, and you get more incompletes. It's a team game no matter what anybody says. All right, phone calls to start off hour 2. Let's hit some of those on the Davini Equipment phone line. Mark calling in on line 1. What's up, Mark?
Hey, man. Just wanted to run back through some history of State football and see what you think about this, because I wish they'd improved on the air raid that was successful. But State in the early 70s, they won. They got put on probation. In the early 80s, they won because they had a guy, Emory Ballard, who came in and he had a system that he came up with himself. Oh, and Jackie Sherrill was there. He did the junior college thing, got junior college people in. And then, as you know, in 99, you had the best defense in the country. You didn't have to score a whole lot of points. Okay, and then Dan Mullen came up with the running quarterback, and it worked, okay? So now State hires Mike Leach, comes up with a unique format. People didn't think it would work. It did. It was successful. So I think in order for State to be successful, they've got to be unique. You can't just do the same kind of football Alabama's doing because it's not going to work. Everybody is going to be copying what Alabama does too. State needs to be unique, and as far as I'm concerned, I think the best thing they could have done, and this may have something to do with the athletic director in choosing a coach, I would have found that out before I hired a coach, is what type of team do you want? And, you know, if you know that something is working and been successful, if they would have recruited it at a higher level, great receivers, maybe you have somebody catch a ball. They lost last Saturday due to poor defense. Not going to beat a lot of people and give up 41 points, as you know. But I want to see what your thoughts were on that. It's just a situation where Mississippi State in the position they're in, and then next year it's going to even get tougher. With at least they don't play Alabama now that Alabama's not quite as good as they used to be. They go off state schedule, so that's just a luck sometimes.
Yeah.
But with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, it's going to even be tougher. And with I'm just really worried too, Matt, that State and Ole Miss, how are they going to collect the money to pay players as much as LSU and even Auburn and Alabama and Georgia?
Yeah.
All these states are bigger. And I think that's a very tough situation to be in. So they've got to come up with something that's unique and that's going to work. And I think if they do that, they're going to have a fighting chance to beat some SEC teams, and that's what they need to do. But we'll see.
Mark, I really do appreciate the call.
I think going away from the air raid is a mistake because it's a unique format, and if you can recruit that, I don't know how.
Mark, thanks for the call. Really do appreciate it. It's good to hear your voice too, Mark. I always enjoy hearing from you. I'll say this, when Coach Arnett was hired and he made the decision, to break up that offensive staff that was there under Coach Leach and go do something different. I really did feel like then, and I still do, it's a coach's prerogative when you get that opportunity. We see it from our perspective, but he sees it from a career perspective of working and doing jobs and coaching on one side of the ball and working your way up through. And it is a very unfortunate circumstance, but there you are in the position now to be the head coach. And I said then, I do believe, a guy like Mike Leach would probably tell any young coach, hey, you got to do it your way. I mean, if anybody did it his way, it was Coach Leach, and that is true. But, Mark, I agree with you. And I said it then, too, when we were going through that transition into the air raid deal, that what I liked about it was that in some cases it was going to give you an opportunity to do something you've never done, which is be, that unique style of offense, to be that one-off that people have to think about and do something different to prepare for you during the course of their season. And every now and then the quarterback and the receivers and the offensive tackle and such were all going to align, that gave you a chance to really be a high-powered offense that would, yes, give you a chance to maybe spring attack, surprise attack some of these great teams that load up on so many great players and always have and always will, especially now that you can openly just go out and buy players. Well, I agree with you that it's hard. I can't foresee it. Mark, I agree with you that I as well, maybe maybe I think like you, maybe we're the problem. I don't know. But it's hard for me to envision a state program in this era just going out and throwing the money around to load your offensive roster to go out here and run what everybody else has run, just run it better than them. And that air raid deal, and I know that we have to consider too that they weren't going to have the air raid play caller, which was Mike Leach. They weren't going to have that. God made that decision, I guess, but to break that staff completely up and just go, away from it was a bold decision. And we've even talked about this, that decision, if you got out here and it didn't all work out on offense, was going to bring about criticism, that decision. And so they've got some work to do for sure on the field to avoid that. But I do agree with you. Did like it because you're gonna out recruit on the line of scrimmage and at running back and at tight end and at quarterback these other schools now. Maybe not. We'll see. Chris from Macon on line 2. Thanks for calling back, Chris. What's up?
You called for it, so I'm called back. One first thing is, congratulations to your Chiefs yesterday.
Man, a
Boy,
shot in
does
the
Chris
arm.
Jones- Boy, does Chris Jones look like the most valuable player on that team.
He did yesterday, just about. Yep.
Second thing is Matt, I'll tell you what, my Cowboys are impressive this year. Absolutely impressive. Like Dak and just the defense. Michael Parsons just looks unstoppable. And if he's not making the play, they are making the plays just because of him. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I will say this, though. Thank you as an announcer for not doing what Brad Shim and Dave Laufenberg did last night. First thing is, Brad Shim starts saying, "Oh, Dak hasn't thrown a missed pass all night." Next thing you know, very next play, incomplete. I'm like, what in the world? And then
he threw it right to that. He threw it right to that guy too. Now, if that kid caught that ball, he could have backpedaled crawled into the end zone. There was nobody down there.
Yeah, but also too, then Dave Laufenberg's like, "Oh, well, you know, they ain't been scored on in 2 weeks." And the very next play, 68 yards. I'm like, what in the world? Be quiet.
They talked him into it. Announcer's jinx.
Yeah, they did. Have a good day, man.
I'll remember that. Hey, I would be lying. I would be lying if I said that I don't think about that sometimes during the course of these games. I've learned to be hesitant to say things like, he hadn't thrown an interception in 3 games, because guess what's about to happen? Saturday, I said, they throw that pass interference flag. They're not picking that one up. By the time he waves the flag off. There is no pass interference on the play. Yeah, we all do it. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transit grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what? Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo.
Back with you in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. Will says on the Murray West live thread, A&M's gone out and bought a bunch of players. How's that work for Jimbo? He says at some point you have to coach too, and people act like players can't be developed. It's very true. It is a very different deal because of the ages and the developmental process and everything, isn't it, Will, than NFL free agency? But it's also different than the NFL free agency system because, you know, players don't have to wait. They can just go whenever. Like there's no contracts, right? So it's just different, right? But your point is true. We've seen it in pro sports. Just because you spend the most money at certain places doesn't mean you win it every year. So, you know, we've seen that as well. Thanks for that comment on the Murray West live thread. Go to murraywest.com, contract embroidery company right here in Mississippi, in New Albany since 1996. Custom apparel, whatever it is you need. If you need your logo or insignia on anything, shirts, hats, whatever, jackets, promotional items. I was in there one day and I saw that they were putting something on a golf bag. And so the reason I recommend them, they do the best job of all that stuff, and they're wonderful people as well. And you can find them online at murraywest.com, MURRY west.com. Like I said, they're in New Albany. Same place as High Point Roasters. Go to highpointroasters.com, get some hot coffee like I'm drinking right now. And I'm going to sip on this while I hear what Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona, has to say on the Davini Equipment phone line. Jason, thanks for calling. What's up?
Nothing much. I think a big part of this is that a whole lot of people, as Beaver put it so eloquently, fooled themselves into thinking that this transition was going to be easy. You know, it's kind of like I told him, I expected it to be bad for the first month, and I think I told y'all that you might as well, you know, be struggling in games you weren't going to win anyway. But it's a lot worse than I expected, but it's still really early to be, you know, throwing in the towel completely. There's still plenty of time to fill each other out, the coaches, to get stuff that these players can do in there. And
Sure it is.
You know, if you look up at the end of the month and it's no better, then you got a real problem. But there's plenty of time here to figure some things out.
Well, and what's right in front of you, you know, going to South Carolina is not an easy trip, sure, and it's an unfamiliar opponent and all that kind of stuff. And for these players who've never played at South Carolina, they may not understand what they're walking into, but that's a tough environment. Yeah. But their defense it ain't like playing LSU's defense. I got news for you.
Yeah.
And it ain't like playing, you know, Georgia's defense like you played last year. Yeah. Sure, South Carolina can beat them, Jason, but State also has the capability athletically to get out there and compete with South Carolina if they execute some stuff, right? So there's some reasons to be, like you say, I mean, you just, they have no choice, do they? But they have to figure it out and win a few games and make something positive out of this. And it sounds like they're 2-1, right? They're 2-1 and just got blown out. So we
and
have to be careful.
There's one more thing that you mentioned earlier in the show about LSU the last 2 years, and I think we're also not giving Brian Kelly enough credit for getting LSU to be what LSU should be.
Yeah.
Because they're except for the time Saban was there, they were not, what LSU should be on paper.
Yeah.
For most of the last 20 years.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Well, and I tell you, man, that they were a fireball on both lines of scrimmage the other day. And physical. and Jason, I did say it, and it happens. You play defense, it's going to happen. But I said, welcome to SEC football, Isaac Smith. They got a really good one at safety, but boy, did he ever get the shoulder lowered on him on the sideline over there. Whew. It's a little bit.
All right, well, I'll hang up and listen.
All right, appreciate the call. Yeah, thank you. All right, let's go to line 2 where Winslow is hanging on. Thanks for calling, Winslow. What's up?
Hey, Matt. A lot of my thoughts are like Jason's, because I think people did underestimate, the learning curve and the degree of difficulty that we were going to run into. We kind of bristled when a lot of the media, used that lack of experience to pick a low record. But something I think is worth pointing out, on Saturday, Arnett coached his 4th game as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Kelly coached his 402nd game as a head coach. So you're dealing with both of them start with a 4, but there's a couple of digits after Brian Kelly. That it makes a lot of difference. Probably the best thing, and I understand how people feel. I used to lose my cool with Emory Ballard like nobody else. But, over the years, you kind of learn to let things play out, and you develop the patience to let things play out, because you realize there's not a whole lot that you can do about it.
Sure, that's right.
That's right. But I think one thing, and maybe this is the reason why a lot of people were optimistic, is that you've got such a veteran team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a point of optimism, because when you've got experienced players on the team, they tend to hold things together a little better because they've been through the wars.
Yeah.
And they've had all kinds of stuff happen to them. And so, I don't think there's anything else we can do right now except let these guys do their business or go about their job. And if it doesn't work, at some point in time, business will take place, as I refer to it. But I don't think it's going to take place right now. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is kind of off in left field, did you notice the sideline camera cart that ESPN had on Saturday?
I didn't notice it, no.
Well, it's a little different. Normally they've got a guy up there and he's standing on a platform and there's a guardrail around him and everything.
Yeah.
And, he's got safety hose on. They had this seat literally suspended out in the air, held in the air by what looked like metal rods about an inch thick, with a little pivot joint in the middle. And the guy strapped into the seat, but there's nothing else. And, I kept expecting some kind of OSHA incident to happen.
Yeah.
The guy literally, the little arm that's holding him up just literally cracks or something, because it looked like heavy rebar was about all it was. But that was interesting. I haven't seen that equipment come in, but, I'm sure it's been approved and everything, but you're kind of in suspense. You keep looking at it thinking, okay, it's going to break any minute.
I didn't notice
it. But the guy, it's an interesting little thing, and he pivots himself around. He's strapped in, and the whole seat is just sort of on a little swivel joint, and he moves his feet and pushes himself around to get all the shots that they want. But that happens right there in front of me. So it was, at some point in the game, I started watching the camera guy more than I probably watched some of the plays on the field.
Sounds to me like it's one of those deals too. If a thunderstorm blows up, he's getting down from there real quick, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. There was some little lever down there at his foot, and I kept thinking, okay, that's the release. Handle right there, like, get me down off this thing,
Right, that's good.
But anyway, yeah, Matt, look, 4 against 402, it makes a big difference, especially when you've got talent to go with it. But,
yes,
I'm going to have faith in a lot of these seniors, the older guys, to hold the team together and let the guys do their job.
Appreciate the call, Winslow. Thanks very much. That is a significant difference, too. And so you have a first-year head coach in Arnett. You have a first-year defensive coordinator in Matt Brock, and now you do have the advantage you're teamed up with Arnett. But Brock's a first-year defensive coordinator, not only for you, but this is first year to be a defensive coordinator. You have a first-year Power 5 offensive coordinator, because Barbet came from App State. So that's FBS, but that's not in the Power 5. It's a little different. And so it's first-year head coach, first-year OC, first-year DC, and then offensive staff as a whole, their first year to work together. So we probably did underestimate a lot of this. And maybe that's just what the situation called for, but, that's where it is. Unnamed texter says, no, I'm sorry, this is Tony. Tony in Vicksburg says, seeing how our offense has played out in the first 3 games in retrospect, he says it would have been better for Will Rogers in State had he transferred to an air raid type program and for Arnett to find a mobile passer. He says, if you think back to 2020, Leach played this card with Garrett Schrader. He says, I feel sorry for Will. He deserves better. And, that's the thing about it. We talked about that earlier in the show, and I said that it kind of feels like, Will would be the first to probably tell anybody, hey, don't feel sorry for me. I don't want your pity and all that kind of stuff. But Jason nailed it. As a group and as an offense and as a team, they've just got to shut the doors and shut their ears and go to practice and gut it out and grit it out and go to South Carolina with a plan of things that they know they can execute and just try to go execute it better than the other guys and start building on that, because that looks like where they are right now. All right. A little bit of time left today in the Bureau. It's going fast. Stick around.
Wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product, even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural,
Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, Stum. Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and
Hi, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. A little bit of time left with you here on this Reaction Monday. It all went by really fast. Look up and go, well, good night. 2 hours just went gone. But we do have some time left, thankfully, here in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. And we'll head over to the phone line, the Davini Equipment phone. Judy hanging on line one. Thanks for being patient. Judy, what's up? Hello, Judy. I don't think she can hear me. One more time. Judy. Phone issues today. We'll get them fixed. All right. Back over to the text line, the Country Pleasing text line. MSU 1980 sent me a picture of that cameraman on the swivel chair, and I can see now what Winslow was describing. And it looks a lot like a microphone arm. If you look at people who like maybe doing podcasts or interviews or in a radio studio like this one, it's kind of like one of those, it bolts down to the table and has this arm reaching up with a microphone on the end of it, can swing around. It's like a giant version of that with hydraulics is what that looks like. I didn't notice it the other day from my perspective, but appreciate you passing that along. All right, let's try the phone line again. Back over to the phone. On line one, State Grad 98. Are you there? State Grad 98.
What is Mr. White?
Hey, what's up?
I've been kind of concerned because I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Coach Barbay said he was going to get his best 11 on the field, and we're 3 weeks in, and we to a whole spring, to a whole fall camp, and still can't decide who our 5 best offensive linemen are.
Yeah.
And I kind of find it, so we're trying to get them rest and everything. So when you run 50 plays in a game, how much rest does the offensive line need? Especially after, you go in there, you get a 3 and out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, to me, I just don't understand that. You're supposed to have 2 offensive line coaches. How can you not
Yeah.
At least have a better idea of who it's going to be.
Yeah, listen.
And also,
let me say on that, it is a catch-22. No, rest for your offensive line is not an issue. And honestly, you only ran 50 plays by virtue of the fact that you couldn't get first downs, which, so that's sort of a catch-22 for sure.
I know you're talking about, the offensive line going another way. I did read, Arnett's transcripts from his press conference today, and encouragingly, and they don't have the, we're not, the players not putting us in a position to win. He said that includes all positions. So all the Will Rogers haters can kind of smile saying, hey, that, if he's not, if he's doing it like,
yeah,
then,
hey,
Mike Wright,
yeah. State grad, thanks for the call. I appreciate the phone call a lot, very, very much. Got some others hanging on, and your signal kind of cut out, but I got the premise there. I think if you didn't hear that, State grad was saying that today in the press conference that Arnett was saying that they evaluate all the positions, every one of them. So that means if somebody wants to run in there and take a job, they've apparently got an opportunity. All right, let's flip it over to line 3. Gator Greg hanging on. Gator Greg, thanks for calling. What's up?
Help me out a little bit, Mr. White. Okay, on your game plan. Let's talk about you and LSU. I think the first pass will hit, and then Mr. Marks. How many carries did he get for the ball game?
Yeah, he got a grand total of 8 carries, 75 yards. Had the long run of 52.
Okay, I'm not. You know football better than I do. I'm not a coordinator. But I just, going back and even looking at LSU against Florida State, I'm just curious with your new coordinator, maybe more of a commitment to the run. I thought your defense hung in there. I just thought because they couldn't get much rhythm on offense, they eventually wore down. And I'm going to ask, and I don't want to sound dumb or anything, but if somebody runs past you, I'm talking about the defensive back, isn't it okay just to grab them? Because in college football, it's only 15 yards.
It is.
I don't care if I have 5 or 6 of them. I don't know, you don't encourage that, but just talk about that.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I'm still not a Napier fan, but anytime you can beat that team with the T on it and embarrass them, and you got to tell me if anything came down with the league on the fighting. That was terrible. You take a knee, and then they want to take a cheap shot and hit somebody. Tennessee will lose this week to UTSA. I'm guaranteeing that right now. Appreciate you, Mr. White, and y'all going to get South Carolina. Appreciate you, and have a good day.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Greg. Did y'all hear that? He just guaranteed a loss for Tennessee this week to UTSA. And then he also said State was going to beat South Carolina. So it'd be fine to see it correct on both accounts. Yeah, I would imagine there's a little bit of a coaching point there. And it already is. I mean, it's not like that's a stone that they leave unturned. But especially, with certain matchups going forward, where you go, hey, look, certain situations in the game, or a team is up already a touchdown and they're motioning and trying to get their best guy matched up on a safety, and you tell him, hey, hold him. If he puts a break on you, if you can get your hand on him, hold him. Or if you catch up and he's going for the ball and you hadn't called up, swing out there and hit that arm. We'll take the 15-yard penalty. That's why, there was one late in the fourth quarter against DeCamerion Richardson last week against Arizona, and I felt like it was a good penalty. If he doesn't commit that penalty, they're going to catch it and at least step out of bounds for about a 35-yard play, if not stay inbounds and get more. He gives up a 15-yard penalty because he held him coming out of the break. I thought that's a good penalty right there. So you got a good point on that. Judy did text the Show in the Country Please and text line and said, Matt, we got disconnected. Please say something about the horrible targeting call. Yeah, Judy, the targeting call on Sean Preston, I know that states, like a lot of schools, are going to appeal that with the league. The only thing in that whole play that, might be construed as satisfying part of the targeting initiative was the fact that Preston, who's doing the tackling, lowered his head, which is really more dangerous for him than it is for the guy he's hitting. He lowered his head, right? So it's like the very top of his head had a chance to be going into the chest of the ball carrier, but he didn't launch at the head neck. It wasn't a defenseless player. It was a tackle on the ball carrier, and he hits him in the middle of the sternum, like right in the middle, like right where his jersey number was. He hit him right there in the jersey number. And we're saying that that is targeting. And he's ejected from the game and going to miss the first half of the next one. The rule is asinine. I don't necessarily blame that officiating crew that's on the field because they are at the mercy of the review crew in Birmingham in that particular deal. And what I said was on the broadcast, a well-intentioned officiating crew, and I felt like that was 2 weeks in a row that we had a pretty evenly officiated ball game. But a well-intentioned officiating crew, if them trying to and interpreting the rule says that that's a play that should get a player ejected, then the rule is broken. But here's the thing. It has been for years. And they will not adjust it. And they won't change it. Because ultimately, they really don't care that much about a player getting tossed from a game and having to miss a half. They just don't care about that. They've made that abundantly clear, the rules committee and anybody, and the way that the officiating crews are willing to interpret the rule. They've made that clear. We don't care if a senior gets kicked out of a game and misses a half of football. Don't care. I think they do care about potential litigation. That's what a lot of this stuff is about. That's what the rule is about. That's what the interpreting of the rule is about. When you really get down to it, is want to make sure that if somebody ever tries to, in their eyes, frivolously, bring a lawsuit because of some injury and say that, well, our butt is covered. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's how I feel about it. Because from a football standpoint, I will say this, I will say it. It is so easy. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. If we are playing full speed tackle football, you cannot throw people out of the game for tackling the guy with the ball. You can't do it. It's asinine. It's happened before a lot. It's one thing, defenseless receiver making a play on the ball, about to catch it, has his back turned, up arm, like the guy for the Broncos and the Commanders yesterday. His arms are up to catch the ball, ear hold. That's one thing. Blindside blocks, kickoff, peel back blocks, all these different things. But when you're a defender in the open field and here comes a ball carrier, you have one job: tackle the ball carrier. If he doesn't tackle the ball carrier, his own coaches are taking him out of the game. You're going to kick him out of the game so sure, on hits on a guy carrying the ball, when in question, you want to call a 15-yard penalty? Call it. You cannot kick defenders out of a game for tackling a guy with the ball. To do so shows you don't care about anything except the money in your pocket. You're afraid somebody's going to sue you for it. See y'all tomorrow. See ya.